All right, welcome back to the principal's office. We are here today to install our new C&H Precision Comp optic on our Staccato P. Of course, we got our mag set up. This is how we travel to and from the range with our essentials. Got our iPro, Hunter's HD Gold, current ears, Caldwell. Of course, we have our shot timer, pack 2. You never leave home without this, our gum butter. And this is our fix-it sticks. You never know when you're gonna have an issue with your firearms at the range. So it's better to always have some equipment. We'll be using that to get this work done. All right, so here we are. Firearm is clear. No magazine. So we're going to start by disassembling our firearm, so that way we are only working with the slide. So within our fix-it sticks, we are going to look for the proper sized tool. Go to remove our Delta Point Pro. Now we've been running this Delta Point Pro for few years now. Haven't had any issues with it at all, because we're essentially tuning the Staccato up for competition only. We wanted to give ourselves a more efficient option for competition. So we will definitely repurpose this Delta Point Pro for another firearm. Give us a moment, we'll be right back so that we can find the proper bit to remove this screw here. So we found the right bit. Delta Point Pro is off. Set that aside and we will install that on another firearm at some other point. I typically like to wipe this up before throwing something else on. Alright, so we are fully uninstalled. So this was a kit that I purchased some time ago just straight off Amazon, so that I can make sure I have all the bits necessary. So wasn't expensive either, so something to think about. Let me put this back before I lose this piece. So this piece, essentially, this adapter allows me to use it in conjunction with my fix-it sticks. Right. So essentially, we're going to do this, but we can't direct mount it, which is why we had to purchase our adapter plate from C&H Precision as well. So when you are running optics on your firearm, you want to, before you purchase the optic itself, you want to ensure that the optic can fit your firearm, and then you want to ensure that you have the proper adapter plates for your firearm. All right, for your firearm. So essentially what this is going to do is this is going to sit here when we get that snug fit, and then we are going to attach the optic to the plate, and it will fit as such. Right? Another thing that we want to make sure that we do is check the torque specs for cinching down your optic plate and your optic to the firearm. All right, we want to make sure that we do that. Now, I may have to take these stabilizers out so that the optic plate essentially fits flush here at that click. Right? So these will actually go back into a bag, because I'm sure we can use those at some other point with another Staccato. Alright, so essentially what is going to happen is we are going to take those existing screws and screw this directly into the slide. Alright, so before we put anything together, we want to do a test fit. With that test fit, we're essentially going to, one, take our plate and just make sure that everything fits properly there. They say it's okay if there's a little wiggle room, so don't worry about that. And then we have two additional points of contact, our plate screws, and then our optic screws. So what we're going to do is we are going to take our plate. In the provided screws, we have a few things. We have our T-nut, this T-nut here is essentially going to go underneath and sit flush here, right? Actually a little deeper than flush. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take our mounting screw, I'm going to add the optic to the plate, and then we are going to screw this in to ensure that it is a proper fit. So we get the proper bit. And then we just screw it down. Alright. So once we screw it down, we want to ensure that the screw does not come beneath the T-nut. Alright. And this is actually supposed to be torqued to 15 pounds of pressure. So we're going to go ahead and torque it down to 15 using our trusty fix-it stick. That's 10. All right, so good to go there, and it is not going beneath, so we have a good fit. So we're going to remove that. And then we are going to go ahead and proceed with our mount. So we also have to identify the screws for the optic plate. These already come with Loctite on them. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and sit these in here so that we are able to lock down the plate. I'm going to swap this out for a red one. And make sure this is the correct bit. It is the correct bit. Now, C&H does provide the necessary tools for it. We're going to be utilizing our fix-it stick because we'll be torquing it down. So I like to get them both started instead of just cinching one all the way down. And I just go back and forth until they're snug. So they're both snug, and then at this point is when we want to torque it down to the appropriate pounds of pressure. Now, these are supposed to be torqued to 10 pounds of pressure, so I have to swap this out. This one goes from 0 to 15. This one here in Fix-It 6 goes from 0, 5 to 10. So we want to use the appropriate one. Torque it down properly. There's 10. Torque this one down properly, and we are at 10. From here, we are ready to mount our optic. In mounting our optic, we are going to go ahead and just slide it on. Make sure that everything kind of connects the way that we need it to connect. And there we are. Even though we test fitted before, we just want to go ahead and run that again. Okay. All right. So let's get that back up. Remember, we need to. Oh, we missed a step. So we're going to have to take this off of here because we did not apply our T-nuts. So sometimes that happens. You want to make sure that you properly install your optic, or you'll end up having issues later on. And I definitely don't want to have any issues during competition with my optic flying off because we did not install it properly. So, all right, we have our two T-nuts. Two T-nuts are going to go on the bottom. Once we do that, we can go ahead and turn it upside down so that it doesn't fall out. And then now we have our points of contact exposed. So we are going to go ahead and put these back in. Again, let me swap out my torque. like I said before, we are going to do one side, then the other, and just slowly go back and forth, working them in, instead of just fully cinching them one all the way down and then going to the other one. I'm not sure if that is suggested, but I typically like to have just equal pressure going down each one. All right, so let's check our torque pressure. We are at 10. We are at 10. All right. Just confirmed. Now we can go ahead and don't do it like that. Install. So that is where our screws will meet. That's that point of contact. So we're going to go ahead and put that on and use the provided screws from C&H Precision. And we're going to drop these in. We're also going to swap this out because, again, we said we have to go to 15. We can leave it on. All right. And just like before, I want to go ahead and just get it down a little bit. Make sure that that connection to the T-nut is hitting. And then slowly, evenly just apply pressure to both sides until we start to get a little bit of resistance. So we are at that point. We have some resistance, and then now it is time to torque it down to the appropriate pounds of pressure. And they say 15. I'm always nervous torquing these things down because I don't want to break anything, but that's why we have the torque wrench, to ensure that we're going by the specs of the company. And if there's anything that happens, we just reach back out to the company. So there we are. We have it installed. Now, the other thing that we need to do is install our battery. So it's a top-mounted battery, which means that we do not have to re-zero if we need to change the battery. So this is your 1632. I also recommend getting a couple of extra batteries and leaving them with your in your case. You never know what can happen, what will happen. It's always good to have a backup. Now, if we can get into this housing. If you're doing anything like this and you're using a blade because you're impatient like me, make sure that the sharp edge of the blade is away from your body. And then also make sure that you're not making any contact with the actual battery with the blade. Alright, and we are out. We're going to drop that in. To screw this back in. we'll confirm what the pounds of pressure should be on the battery compartment, just to make sure that we don't over tighten or make sure it's not too loose. All right, also make sure that you do not forget to install your screw in your rear sight if you are installing a plate to a Staccato. So we're going to get this here. And then we're also going to make sure that we torque this down to the appropriate specs as well. And we will confirm that later. Another thing that is suggested is that, and you saw this when I took off the Delta Point Pro, we had witness marks. Right? I'm not sure if you can see that, but we're going to apply some witness marks on this optic. What that allows us to do is it allows us to check, a visual check, to see if our screws are loosening up at all. This is highly recommended if you are using an optic plate, whether it is for competition or for your everyday carry. So after we have kind of torqued this down to the appropriate pounds of pressure, we're going to go ahead and put those witness marks on. So if I go ahead and look at it, I can go ahead and see if they've moved at all, and that will let me know whether or not my optic is, the screws are coming loose. Now we're going to make sure that we let this sit for 24 hours without shooting to allow that Loctite to set. We'll go ahead and do a reassembly. It's already lubed up, so almost forgot. Here we go. All right. And we are installed. Function check. All right. And there she is. The C&H Precision Comp on our Staccato P. All right. Let's do a function check on the battery, and I'm not sure if you guys can see that, but it is working. There it is right there. So I opted for the multi-reticle because I can go ahead and switch it out to the single dot or circle and the dot, or just a circle. So I wanted to be able to have options. So we're going to let this sit, and in 24 hours we're going to take it out to zero it. Thank you, C&H Precision. We will do a full review on this optic after we come back from the Caribbean Open. Here we are. Thank you for tuning in. Remember, we get better with each rep. Educate, train, equip, compete. We'll see you next time in the principal's office.